Hey, and welcome to another episode of The Unspoken Truths of Digital Leadership, Living the Leadership Values, where our guests will talk about the unspoken truths of leadership, the dark side, and the learnings from dealing with conflict with integrity. Today, I have a very special guest with me. He is an experiential public speaking coach, international keynote speaker, and corporate trainer, Aaron Leung. Thank you for being here.
Good to be here.
So, Aaron, before we get started, as always, I like to ask my guests is, how did you get into finding your voice in public speaking and get to where you are today as a public speaking coach?
I think when I was very young, I realized that voices are important to me. During my life in secondary school, I was victimized by bullies, and I try to voice up to people, even the teachers or even like the principal, but they don't care. Back in the days, I was kind of trying to express my voice, but wasn't heard. So that moment on, I realized that voices are the only key defense to anyone's freedom of speech and also the rights as well. From that day on, I start to talk with myself. No, just joking. I start to really express my voices and also helping others to realize their voice, especially those people who have suffered maybe the same fate as me, or people who have been engaging with tough battles that people silence their voice on, and I try to help them because I understand how they feel.
When you talked about your childhood and you was bullied, was this in Hong Kong or is this?
This happened in Singapore. Well, I was studying in a secondary school there, and I was like the target for the bullies, and that was a really hectic moment because.
What did they bully you about though? That's one thing I for me, for instance, I was bullied during my childhood in school because I was the only Chinese kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the outcast, and I was subject to racist abuse and all sorts. But I would similar to you as well.
Similar situation. Mine is slightly different. Mine is like when I was in Singapore, they're all Singaporeans, and I am from Hong Kong. And there are lots of different disputes or saying Singaporeans thinking that they're superior to Hong Kongers and stuff like that. That is actually like kind of an in-frame. And that time I was picked out because I'm the only person from Hong Kong there. And I don't talk with the classmates because I want to focus on my studies or enjoy my life in some way. So when they bully me, I suffer in silence because I couldn't express myself too well.
Yeah, that I can relate to that because that's how I was just suffered in silence and not having a voice. And how did you overcome, the bullies and stuff like that?
I think it's actually about mindset. It's about strong will and also believing in yourself that you can make a difference. During that time, for the 4 years, it was pretty hectic. Every single day, I try to find time with my friends just to escape from bullies, and just to escape from torture. And also try to spend more time on the alone time on myself, getting home early. But after which, during my Sec 3, Sec 4 years, I started something called the Camping Club, which is an incentive from the local community. And they were actually building a camping club. Basically, it's just like a cabin. We're just doing at school right now. And it's like a getaway for students from all that stress and worries. And to me, it's like a mini home to me because I can get in there, I can find my voice, and then I can shut down any bullies that happens in there who is trespassing or harassing any other people, just like they do to me. So that's like my safe layout or hideout after school. And I was like the vice president there. And then I started taking a lot of people who suffer in silence, added in some counseling sessions from those experts during that time. And then that works and help a lot of people.
Wow, okay. So that was your first taste of leadership?
Yeah, no, not the first taste. Before that, I was community service worker as well, and now leading a team of kids who are younger than me as well. So yeah, it's just like 1 or 2 times during those years. And I'm also like I'm a very active person who joins societies, or rather saying extracurricular activities as they call it. And during those times, I try to spend most of my time there to escape from my worries or unhappiness. But then through this worries and unhappiness, I start to find the power in my voice, that trusting your voice and also trusting in communication works so much well if you start believing yourself.
So when it comes to building confidence, how did you do that?
I start from the very basic scratch. I try to ask a favor, saying that, look, can you help me doing that? I'm not skilled in leadership during that time. I'm just a hard worker, like a devoted hard worker that creates amazing results like no one can beat, no one can top it. If someone is going to be in my challenge, I'm going to beat them at least twice. But then when I will become a leader, I start to think from other people's point of views, feelings, and I start to try to learn the power of delegation, trying to communicate and lead them, asking from a favor to a win-win situation. So I start to brush up my skills from there.
What does the win-win situation look like for you?
In any situation, or during
any situation?
I think win-win situation is that, to me, usually my practice nowadays is that I stand from other people's shoe and ask myself, what do they want? Asking is the first thing to me to understand what they want, but I'm not them. So I also have to talk with them to understand what their expectations or wants would be. Then I try to think about, from my perspective, on how I can, how much room can I afford to make this both a winning situation, because I'm looking for a long-term partnership, not just a short-term one. If it's a short-term, basically I don't really need to care. But I believe that any friend or any partners can go for a lifetime. So that's where I start to think about like new things from that perspective. Build that trust first, build that integrity that whatever you do, you would not break that promises, etc. So that's like my code of conduct in any partnerships I'm doing. And then communication would be the key, making sure that people will know, and finally transparency. Anything that I do will let them know as well.
And what was your taste in leadership experience? What was that like when you first encountered it? Like, did you know, when was the leadership, like you actually specified this feels like leadership or responsibilities?
When was the first time I feel like leadership, right? Is when they appoint me, like back in school, I was in Scouts, and they appoint me as like a vice head, which is like owning a patrol second. And I start to feel the power of leadership, as in like how whatever I do is being watched by every single one that's behind your back, and you have to set up a role model. So to me, in terms of my own leadership way that I find would be servant leadership, because I lead by example. I take actions. I don't just do the talk, I do act. And that's where I start to feel, or when I start to see people, although they talk behind people's back, but people start to talk and say, look at Aaron, and he is so hardworking. He's doing a lot of things for us. I think I want to be like him. I want to learn like him in some way. There are some juniors who were talking like that, and I was like, and when I heard that, although I was kind of disgusted by lots of people, as I mentioned, during secondary school, I was being bullied. But there are some good people that recognize myself.
And for those that gave you that recognition, what was it like for you when you acknowledged, oh, I'm making a difference positively to someone else's life?
I think it's more like satisfaction. Not just satisfaction, it's more than that. It's like I know I'm born for this. Seeing people growing, seeing people learning from the best. Not saying that I'm the best. I'm just saying learning from the best practices or actions. and they feel inspired is something that I feel very happy and proud of. And I think that actually can keep on inspiring. And that actually leads to the current job that I'm doing right now.
When it comes to inspiration, who and what inspires you?
Cool. I think the person that inspired me the most is my grandpa. During my younger days, my grandpa is always the one with the biggest ang bao. Red packets in Chinese culture. He always give me the biggest red packet, and then always they're just like you right now, filled with positivity, and he always give me the sunshine when it's rainy days for me. Not just that, he always give me words of wisdoms and show me how someone can support you and you can feel it. I don't know how to say that in one sentence. It's more like letting you know how important that support is important to one's growth. And he was there for me. He was my first bridge to my family, because back in the days, me and my family relationships are not that good, and my grandpa actually helped me to loosen my defensive spells or egos that I may have during as a child, and helps me to bridge the differences and connections through different parties. And I have to thank him for that. He inspires me so much by walking the talk. So that's maybe the reason why I'm actually doing what I'm doing right now.
That sounds amazing. I never really had much of a connection with my granddads or grandpas, unfortunately. But it's interesting to find that you have a great connection with your grandpa, that you get that inspiration, and the behaviors that he taught you is now you're now living what he's talked to you about. What was your choices when you made to lead others?
What do you mean by what was my choices?
Why do you lead? Why do you choose to lead?
Why do I choose to lead? That's a good question. I think the point of why we choose to lead is because we are living in a community full of people. And no one can deny the fact that together we make a difference. And with people with great directions, unity is strength, and you can overcome any impossible situations. Through the power of imagination that everyone has, with the right kind of leadership, you can bring a lot of amazing wonders, just like what the society is doing right now. We have TED Talks that is actually inspiring people around the world. We have those like big companies like Google or other big companies that's actually setting an example or revolutionize the whole way that we are working right now. Without the right leadership and the right minds, things would be quite impossible. It's because we can imagine and we can lead that imagination. We can push forth beyond our dimensions.
Okay. And the reason I asked that is because when I see leadership, I just don't see it as a title when most people see it as a title. But I see it as a behavior. Like, the reason why I lead or choose to lead in communities or any organization that I work for or I work at is that because I know that I never really had a role model in my life. So like you mentioned, you had a role model in your life, like a grandfather. I never really had a role model in my life. So therefore, I had to become the role model that I wish to see in the community. So I would take the action. I would become the example that I wish to see in society. So positivity, like I'm known for that. Kindness, integrity, those are the types of things that I live by, my values, how I behave, how I show up, how I communicate. And because I never had someone like that, I wish to be that person for someone else.
It kind of resonates to me as well, because like my grandpa passed away when I was Sec 4, which I was doing the GCO levels. I lost a great role model and a sense of direction. because someone leaving is like the whole world that you thought you knew actually collapsed. And during that time, I was feeling really, really bad because something else even happened during that time, not just my grandpa. That leaves me even more depressed. But then I lost my direction for quite some time until I start to pick myself up again. So also inspired to become like the role model that is for people, and inspired to be a leader, so that I can create a difference or let people know what that difference is. It's just showing the world that things could be better. Things doesn't need to be like this, and we can think from different perspective or angles.
And you mentioned overcoming depression, and I could relate because I've also suffered something similar during when I was lost and stuck in my life. How did you overcome that dark tunnel moment?
I think if we are going to talk about that, I can talk about 3 little stories that's related to this.
Yeah.
The first time when I was suffering from, I wouldn't say that kind of is depression, but loss of loved ones. I have to put the word "as" there. And the loved ones actually differentiate from different magnitudes. I lost someone that is really, really important, even more important than my grandpa at that time. So think about the difference. I was praising my grandpa just now a few minutes ago, and then someone is even more influential or more important than him. At that time, everything turns dark, and most of my time I spent in the times of graveyards reflecting what could have done better. Because I couldn't revive the dead. No one can. Time doesn't allow that to. Unless some people in the future actually can tell me that this can be reversed, that's a different story. During that time, I was in my zone, and I didn't see any lights. I start talking to the tomb. I start talking to people as if they were there. I mean, those people were passed away. And suddenly, just one day, it comes to me and say, look, they do not want you to see you depressed. You still have many, many years down the road. People still leave for reasons. Let that reason count. What do we mean by that is that find a value that makes your existence worthwhile. That's purpose in life. And not just that, make full use of the time that if you can help yourself, there are many, many people who might be in your state that needs your help. Not being a savior or something, but there are many people who would be worse than you. We don't exaggerate the pain or sufferings that one person has, but during that time, it just woke me up and said, look, I spent enough years repenting. I spent enough years sweeping the tomb. I should get out. I should get back to my normal life, live my dreams, do something for the people that I care about. Because every minute that I lose my time with my loved ones. And ironically, my loved ones is a very naughty sister at my home who always scolded me. My mom, who, although I openly might say that I do not really like her, but deep in my heart, I really deeply love her. And my dad, who I try not to follow as a role model, but deep down in my heart is one of my role models in life. So kind of lots of things that contradicts with each other. But as a guy, for me, I don't admit it. But thanks to the live conversation, it allows me to face my own inner self. So that's one time, but which is more like suddenly it struck on me and said, look, time doesn't wait anyone. So that's the first mini one. Now, second one is when I lost someone that I wanted to marry. And I also suffered depression. That time I actually left home. I was sleeping on the streets, even performing on the streets too, just for survival. And because I didn't bring my wallet out, I simply just leave all the things that can be traceable on me so that people can't find me. And literally speaking, that time I feel hopeless. I was spending most of my time in a place in Hong Kong called Lang Kwai Fong, which is a bar place, and I look like someone who is drunk and feeling useless. And I just sleep on the streets, different places. But then something amazing happened during that time. Is until where I start to meet, which is a common situation when you come to Hong Kong, you actually see it. There's a granny that is actually picking up paper, those kind of paper box and stuff.
Yeah.
And when I see her, I haven't bathed for days. The only place that you can bath freely is actually in gyms. So I might go to gyms sometime during that time, but I saw a granny and then she didn't judge me. I was actually planning to help her. And as we go along, I start to understand her story. She started to understand mine. And that's where I start to realize that I've been putting all the faults in the wrong basket. I could have done better. I should it's back to like reminding me of what the first time I experienced when I lost my grandpa and someone even more important than that. And during that time, it's just like, look, stop wasting time on this. You have a great life to move on. It's just like a memory just struck me and say, look, you are bigger than this. You are better than this. And after I thanked the granny. I even volunteered to help her occasionally during those times. But I start to pick myself up. I start to use my wandering streets time into understanding different lifestyle of homeless people. People sleeping on the streets. I start to actually really talk with every single beggar that I see, or anyone that's homeless, or anyone that I meet on the road and say hi. That's like nearly something that it reminds me when I was 4 to 5, I would be doing. I did something like that when I was 4 or 5, but that's another story to talk about. But for this moment, I start to talk about it, and it surprises me about the amazing stories behind their backs, like every single one. And it just filled me with loads of wisdom that I can see clearly on myself, what I'm lacking. And I was lacking a direction. So they gave me a new sense of direction to forward to. So that's the second one. Now, the third one is happening right now. For the past few months, it was really horrible. And I was actually at my wit's end. I thought things couldn't be worse, but it actually got worse. Nearly had some suicidal plans too. But then I realized, look, if I passed away just like that, what's the point? People might remember you for a moment, but will not remember you for a lifetime. Oh, someone just passed away. Or another situation that comes to my mind during that time is that reminds me of the monks in the monastery. They're able to put a lot of things down. And there's nothing that you cannot put down once you pass away. So I was thinking from that mentality, look, yeah, I might have loved something really, really much, but is it worth it? There's so many other things I can still do. Back to the first 2 stories and kind of wake me up in some way. Yeah, those are 3 mini ones. The third one mainly related to quarantine for this lovely organization and also my work, potential work business. And then stuck in that place for a couple of months and still haven't returned back home because of COVID-19 and potential issues that may come aftermath.
Okay. Thank you for sharing those stories, by the way. I can really relate to the whole suicidal thoughts and stuff, because when I was physically, mentally burnt out during my corporate career, like I was chasing that corporate ladder, it got to the point where I was like, I'm working 14, 16-hour days for 5 days a week or whatever, but it felt like I wasn't getting anywhere in my life. So like you just mentioned, it was a loss of direction. that loss of direction made me question, what is the purpose of life? And is this going to be something I'm going to be doing for the next 12, 20 years, 10, 20 years of corporate organization? Because when you talk to people in corporate, right, in careers and stuff, they would go, oh yeah, I've been in an organization for about 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And you're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Like when you're chasing that corporate ladder and that climb, you're like, oh, these people are amazing. Like I want to be like them. But you never question yourself, why do I want to be like them?
Yeah. And the worst thing that happens during this time, just saying, is that when you're in China, you realize the amazing part of communication that is being stuck there, that you cannot access Facebook or even YouTube or anything that you usually used to. And that, like my mom doesn't use WeChat, for example, and my sister doesn't use either. And when you don't have people who are there supporting or even like really talking to you, make you feel a bit relieved, there is only just a window and there is just a balcony. And it's so easy to do that. During the time, I think that it just reminded me of that quote. There are many easy ways out, but the hard ways train someone up. Yeah, not out, train someone up. So I just gave up the idea and then start to think about something different and try to focus on the things that I can really bring value to the world.
Yeah, which is why I'm grateful for you to come onto the show to talk about, what is it that you're going to now create and help people with? Because I've known you for just over a year or so now. But there's a lot of close stories and values that we share commonly together. And I see you as someone that inspired in me in terms of my speaking and my journey and what I've come to do, and the way I lead, the way I communicate, and the value of work that I put in. You've inspired me a lot indirectly, right? From just your past achievements. And I've been following you for a while. And this is when I get to openly share and go, thank you for all the work that you do, because it has made a big difference in my life. Like the way I show up, the way I do things, the way I choose to lead has been inspired by a lot by your journey, but what you've achieved, but what you've done so far. So I am very grateful you didn't choose the easy way out as such. And that you are going to, keep creating more leaders or more speakers and champions, because I've also understand that your mentees have become great champions in finding their voice and being acknowledged for finding their voice. And I think that's a beautiful story. If you want to share how you managed to get, where were they before they started working with you?
You mean my mentees, right?
Yeah.
My mentees come from all different backgrounds. And my mentees believed in me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be their mentor. Now, those inspirational stories is actually like something that I feel it makes my meaning go well. I mean, my purpose in life and my service, and also inspiration, because I believe that they can do a lot more. Every single mentee that I have, I believe in them. Otherwise, I will not take them as mentee. Although there's another concept about myself is that I believe that anyone can do well. So during those times, like there's one mentee who was a student. She's a great speaker, but sometimes she gets unnoticed. So I was like, wow, this is an amazing speaker. I need to groom her into an amazing speaker that really inspires lots of people. So I was coaching her during her contest, and eventually, during all these harsh practices that we do through or go through, she overcome it with her skill sets, and she become like a district champion. That's one. The other one is like a global champion as well in public speaking, but not though. It's through virtual. So for her, she was also very inspirational, and that time I thought I couldn't give anything to her, like advice or stuff, but I was thinking that everyone can learn from something. And I started to think from different angles, and I noticed, I just realized that there are a couple of things that she might need some she might need some improvement on. The word is might. So I gave my honest advice. And then that actually helped her so much more. And she won the championships, and also become an inspirational speaker nowadays. So those two, and then many others that I have groomed. One looks of like a division contest, or even like a school contest, or even get into Cambridge, Oxford. And seeing their achievements is just like I'm making a difference in the world by building the pillars that really supports them. It's not just like just anyone. It's actually the foundation of a progressive society, because the one that you helped can help lots of different people that she trained or even mentored in the future years. But I want to give her a sense of direction and say, look, I'm helping you because I believed in you. And I know that you can help many, many other people that I may not be able to reach. The more, the merrier. So every single mentee of mine is someone that is inspirational to the community and make big differences. And that actually resonates to my original vision in my life, is to make the world a better place, to cultivate, I wouldn't say cultivate, to inspire many speakers to let their voice out, let people understand what they can bring to the world. And that actually resonates also to my business right now.
Yeah, I resonate with that one, because making the world a better place than what you found it is something that I always live by. So, when you see something that's not right, you try and fix it, you try and make it better. I think that kind of ethic and value in everything that you do shows and comes across.
The thing is, just like looking at the results right now, look at the global organization like TED and TEDx. Many years ago, TED and TEDx isn't that popular as it's right now. But it's because they add the power of value and the strict criteria of saying something that has never been spoken, to create very unique ideas and respecting many angles that have been overlooked. To me, I'm like the founder of jewels of those undiscovered gems. And that's why I work in and also support a lot of different tags events as a speaking coach, so that I can let their stories and voice out to the world.
When it came to finding your voice, how did you find yours?
How did I find mine? I have to really thank one organization that my dad pushed me into. When I was 16, I think 16, 17, yeah, around there. That's where my breaking point is, where I was saying that's my down point. My dad pushed me to an organization very famous for communication. And it comes with a very nice book of 7 habits, right? There's 7 habits of I forgot the book name. Oh gosh, the how to make friends, and okay, I should say the name of it out. It's Dale Carnegie. So he pushed me into it, and that time I was joining a youth program about speaking, and then I never realized that my voice can be that important, other than the school days. And during that time, I started to take the stage, and I realized that stage has a meaning and has a unique power in there. And once I start to realize that my voice is heard, that brings change. And I've been trying to refine the ways whereby people define stage, and people can find that vision and satisfaction on that stage, that it serves as a purpose of value instead of a spotlight. So I've been refining the process of people getting up onto the stage to give the stage a meaning. The cold ground that has nothing, no one before you, start to feel your warmth when you step onto the stage, and it gives power to the people who listen. It's just like a powerhouse in some way.
And what was that feeling like when you first went on stage?
I feel terrible, to be honest. I mean, like, it's really, really bad during that time. That time when I was on the stage, it's like I couldn't even see people in the eyes. I couldn't even bear to look at them, because it's just like the public speaking fear that we might have, because you are not confident yourself, or you are thinking that you're lacking, like making people feel disappointed with their expectations high. And I couldn't even look at them in the eyes. My voice was like, hi, my name is Aaron. I'm just a person, like that kind of soft, barely audible. And it was embarrassing. And I overcome that in some way by saying that, look, I'm better than those people who doesn't speak. And then that brings a bit of discrimination. What happens if those people are mute? I'm not discriminating them, but I'm saying that they have other ways to replace that ability. For me, if I'm born with that voice, cherish that voice.
Mm-hmm. So again,
by the way the book name is called How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm so sorry, Dalkali. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I know what book
he was like, yeah, I should know this book. Yeah.
It's a great book. I do recommend it as well. I've got it on my shelf too.
True.
So for your outside leadership path, in terms of what you've gone through, what's your most how do you deal with conflicts? That's probably one of the best ways.
Wow.
It could be your internal conflicts. It could be the ones, your inner demons, when you're fighting fear, when you're fighting your voices, your inner voices.
I think I divide the battle zones into 3 different categories: the power free, the internal, the external, and life itself. That's the reason why I put life at the end. So internal conflicts usually is just like, it starts from a very simple story of, where do I want to go? Should I eat sushi or should I eat ramen? Or should I eat Thai food or Vietnam food? Start from the very basics. Everyone could have this kind of situation once in their lifetime. And this inner voice will actually try to tag you to left and right, and then basically you might listen to your voices, you might listen to your emotions, you may actually just follow the gut feeling. But when you have inner voice that's actually telling you to do something that's really, really wrong, it's like keep the devil in your keep your devil to your brain. During that time, I start to analyze it. I think the most important thing when you are having those inner voices because of emotion instability, that you let your emotions out of control. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways to actually make the emotions back in control is to rationalize things by looking and say, look, I need to change myself from being Aaron to an outsider. It's just like applying something called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, where we start from thinking from a different perspective and say, look, what happens if you're an outsider? Do you still feel as much passion to do something like that, for example? And start to view things from a different angle, change different angles, change different view sets. Oh, and then after which, write down all those rationalized ideas instead of just being emotions. And you realize who is the winner. Oh, actually, technically, everyone is a winner, but because they spend some time talking to you. Right? But the point is that once you rationalize it, you're able to analyze the benefits and those potential pitfalls that in every decision that you do. And life doesn't have take 2. You cannot reverse what has happened. Mm-hmm. You only can move forward in life. So this is like what happens when I have lots of internal battles, like saying that during the time when I was bullied, I actually have that thought that says, should I actually know what I want to say that word, but I'm trying to think about a different word that makes it nicer. should I retaliate
Mm.
or should I keep in silence? And I realized I'm not the fighter type. I'm not the one that's like holding dangerous materials and then trying to retaliate in some way because I know I can. But then my own code of conduct says, look, even if I'm suffering, there's no right that I should be like them.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the same league as them. That is what makes me different. I'm not saying that different is good, but saying that at least I'm leaving my conscience. So there's no point of really caring about those bullies, but it just let me think about how I can do things right or doing the right things. Now, that's for internal. For external, because of all this past experience, not just for bullies, there are many, 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 many different stories that makes me who I am today right now. The external battles, I divide it into two little ways. One is that I stand from a very aggressive ground because of my legal background, because I understand what's missing from having your voice. And when there's something that I really care about so much, I will stand from the most aggressive way that you could possibly imagine, making people may feel unhappy, unpleasant, but what I was doing is just a sense of passion that's loving that particular maybe organization or the things that I'm doing. But it's that aggressive, it's a strong sense of justice that's standing there. So this is one way, but it's not seen the best way because it's aggressive. It doesn't really care too much about people's feelings. It only cares about what's right and what's wrong. Drawing a very clear line. Now, the other way is the people that I care. Now, the people that I care, I might appear to be aggressive too, but I do it with a very soft sense approach because I tend to be more sentimental to the people that I really, really care. Caring as in that quite protective, but the point is that not as aggressive as the first one. The second one is more like having a nice chat, communicate, expressing how I feel, and respecting whether they trust my reasonings or not. I still respect that choice. So my tone totally changed when I'm talking to this group of people that may not agree with my ideas, but I do care about them. So yeah, so that this two ways. One is the more soft-centered approach. One is more like the aggressive approach. Or maybe there's actually a tiny third way, which is I just do actions. I show them what it means by that, so that they can have a clear vision to believe what's right or wrong. And so that's more for external. And finally, life is more like things that we do will actually reflect our way of mindset. For example, I'll take the simplest example that I could think in my mind that could be a nice topic for everyone to think about right now who's watching this video, is that when you see a beggar on the street and you know that the beggar is faking it, and there's a cup in front of it asking for donations for himself for a meal, would you donate it or not? Knowing full well that the person is perfectly fine as a human. Now, what's hurting in this situation is that it's about, oh, I know that person is fine. I should find someone that is really, really ill and that I should just give them money to. Or because of your act of kindness or because of your personality, you give them money, which is the two common ways that people think. Or the third one, which I start to think about it, is that when I look at it, he's hurt even more, not from trying to pretend that he is not well. He's trying to avoid the battles that he's fighting. So I actually start from thinking from his psychological mindset. Oh, it's because he needs some motivation. He might be lost. He's just trying to find ways of survival. For me, what I did to this group of people, a true story, is that I actually go up and actually say, I actually give him the dollar, and I give him a name card, which is me. Name card, and say, look, if you need a direction, give me a ring. I see something in you, or I should use this phrase from Dhananjaya. Just joking. I actually simply just saying that if you really need help, feel free to approach me. I give the open doors to them. And I know I can actually literally feel that he's avoiding the battles, maybe for many, many different reasons that I do not know. But I'm here to listen to the story, and I'm here to help, because that's within my abilities to do so. So every single beggar that I did, actually for the past 3 years, actually, not recently. Recently I was pretty down, so I didn't do it. So for the past 3 years, actually, I gave him a name card, and I said, look, if you have anything, just let me know. And surprisingly, there are a few people who call, asking me for a drink. I simply just pay because it's within my abilities. I know he might be using me, but the thing is that throwing away about the point of using, I think from the perspective of he doesn't really already know what sort of ways to help himself. So that's bringing back to my ability, which is coaching skills or guidance or even inspiration. So within the time of like a coffee time, I'm able to inspire some people back on the tracks. Some people become security guards, or even like doing other jobs, really finding jobs. They start to believe in their abilities to live a proper life. And I think that's pretty amazing for my journey in some way, that when every single gesture that I did actually makes a difference. Whether it's good or bad, it does. Don't underestimate everyone's abilities in your own skills or actions. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's just really blown away my mind in terms of how you help how you help the beggars and homeless people in direction.
And refugees. I do help in refugees when I was in UK. That time I was in Cardiff, and there were homeless shelters and stuff like that, which you're in right now in UK, right?
Yeah, I'm in an organization that helps people with homelessness, and that was the only, at least my thought of direction of how could I give back to the community, the homelessness especially, was becoming a board of directors or trustee in an organization that supports these people. So I'm able to at least help with the strategic thinking or strategic planning in an organization to ensure that these people are looked after, supported, and have a place to stay. Because without these organizations, they wouldn't have any extra support and help. So that's my way of giving back to that community, because I see them, when they're sitting around on the streets and stuff like that, but not necessarily giving them money, but sometimes just buying them a drink, like a hot drink, if it's cold, or if it's buying a meal, right? Just give them some food. And I don't give them money directly, but I give the food and drinks if I see them. If I pass by and I'll pass by a coffee shop or something, I'll buy something and I'll walk back and give it to them, because that's the only way I feel I could indirectly help them properly. But giving them a card with a name and say, give me a call if you need help with direction, just probably inspired me to do something different as well.
You can think about a different step. It's just like, for example, I give you a name card. Okay. There are things that you have to do to give me a call, right? First of all, from a beggar perspective, they may have not too much money, right? It means that every single coin, or the moment that they find someone or some shops to give the call, is an action to change himself. The action, the choice is up to him. I can choose not to take any calls, right? But the point is that when I receive these calls, usually these are the priority calls for me. Amazingly, how I put my priorities in my life on. And then when they call me, because I know that they may not be able to call me for a long time because due to the limited service or abilities, then I say that, look, tell me a time, place, and I try to be there. Give me like 1 day or two to prepare myself. Like when I say 1 to 2 days, because mine is not the emergency help. It's not that when someone's in Guangzhou, I have to fly all the way to Guangzhou, or someone in somewhere like in Taiwan, I have to fly all the way there. I couldn't. Yeah, I'm just saying in those perspectives, it takes time. When I say prepare, it's actually for me to try to recall who that person is, because when they call too many names, and not just that, is preparing what sort of things based on the conversation I hear from him, because the words choices that one make actually represents his past. Oh, interesting how public speaking works. Huh? When you hear people using choice of words, you kind of see what his mentality and his state is, and adjusting to that. And I'm thinking about one kind of like direction that I can help that person, but I need to see that person. As long as I can see that person, I can even help. I can help more. Just remind me of the time when I was back in Cardiff. Not just the homeless, is also the asylum seekers who travel all the way from their hometown just to get asylum, refugee in UK for a safe homeland. Oh no, safe homeland. Although many people are rejected because of all different reasons. I work with the different departments before, so I know. But the point is that there are definitely genuine ones who are seeking for safety and protection. Mm-hmm. And actually those kind of things inspired me in the action of giving the name card, because it shows commitment. And if it shows commitment, it means that they're willing to help themselves. It's just that they couldn't find a way to help themselves.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And just for what was right and wrong, how did you come across with justice? How did you see justice in a way? Because I'm fascinated by this, because when I grew up in UK, I grew up with watching Chinese dramas and stuff like that. But a lot of the dramas and TV shows that from TVB and stuff, the television company, well, a lot of them was police stories. So it's always about like justice, the good people get the good things, or what's good and what's bad. A lot of it was learning from police stories. So I've always had this fascination of becoming a police officer or an inspector in Hong Kong. Now, this was something that I had when I was a child, and one of my granddad's sister's husband is also a police officer trainer, and he's been in the police force for like many years. And when I found that, I was so excited when I went back to meet him and see the police school and see the academy and the people he trains. I was just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, that's what taught me justice and what's good and bad. What was it for you?
When you actually say about this word, it actually makes me sigh. When I thought about this word, it's a word that I believe very strongly, and it's related to my values with integrity. Mm-hmm. Similar to you, you say that you want to be a policeman. For me, when I was in the secondary school days, after I lost two of my loved ones at the same year, I wanted to become a judge. When I was young, I only wanted to become a writer. But then I thought, why become a writer when you are already a writer in your life? Because you take actions and you become your main character. Although the ending is still decided by you. Choose your choice. Choose left or right, your choice. Okay, that way. But for me, I actually wanted to become a judge because judge set the example. And sometimes if you're in the very, very top court, like Supreme Courts, or like those in different countries, there are different courts at the highest hierarchy. Every word that you say and every judgment that you say is read by lots of law students, lots of lawyers, solicitor, barrister, like attorneys, and then they start to understand the rationale behind it. And this rationale slowly sink into society and change the world of how they think things. That's why I wanted to become a judge. Although the second reason is to become the ironclad of justice. No, just kidding. I couldn't be that ironclad. Look at me. I'm the cheerful. No, I wouldn't say cheerful. I'm saying I'm not that. I'm not that bashful or even like dictator type, But yeah, when I was during these times, I thought that justice is only just black and white. I have to be real frank. That's only black and that is only white. During my time when I was studying law. And not just that, I never thought about gray areas. Because the gray areas are just for emotional people. I'm not saying people are emotional. I'm just saying for people who are stuck with the elements of emotions and sentiments. It's good to have them, but it's bad if it's used in the wrong place. During that time when I was still young and naive, only black and white, no gray areas. Emotions are for the weak. This was different when I was secondary school days, where I say emotions are the king. I believe in my emotions that actually tap into my voice. But when I'm studying law, when I see a lot of different judgments, I think emotions are just a drag. But now I have a totally different view of justice. I think that justice are meant well at the right time. When I say at the right time, you could be right for all we care. You can be right in everything that you do. You can be right in believing yourself, even so. But if you put it in the wrong time, no one cares about right or wrong. It's just like in wars. People believe that fighting wars are the safe way to peace. So they may discriminate, so they may actually hate. And some people actually just think about, I'm so sorry, I need to switch off that. 天猫精灵，关闭。现在是晚上11点。好的，再见。I have the AI. Don't worry. About the wars thing is that sometimes wars lead to peace and they believe in it. They may believe that it's right. Sometimes they think that wars leads to more wars. And they still believe in it. Is it right or wrong in both cases? Both may be right, both may be wrong. And it's about the timing. So when I learn about justice, that when I know that I'm right, and they know that you're right, and they are there to shut you down, it's the wrong time.
Yeah.
They're not ready to listen to anything that's right. Yeah. I think that's like, to me, like justice in the most appropriate sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the top that really follows, then the people other than that follows too.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So what's next for you in terms of your journey next? What are you working on now? What are you going to create? What are your next plans?
For me, I'm actually building my brand. It's called the Impromptu Speaking Studio, mainly really tapping onto the voice, connecting to your voice, letting your voice be heard by the world. Whether it's correct mindset or not, or whether it's just the things that you think is not that important, really realize that your voice is as important as anyone. So I started this Impromptu Speaking Studio for quite some time. And for the past 14 years, I have been doing lots of different keynote speech or even like speeches around the world, over like at least 5,000 to 6,000 right now by now. I always think that everyone has the potential to command their voice to create opportunities for the lifetime. It's you who decide your fate, not anyone else. And your voice is as important as yourself. So that's why I'm still building on. So I'll also be creating classes to tap on the public speaking skills as well. Training different companies like Fortune 500 companies, and also training something called the cross-cultural communication, which I'm still brushing my skills up, because different cultures have different needs. Sometimes when you have communication issues with a different culture, doesn't mean that you are bad. It means that you might be not putting it in the right direction or right choice of words, because the choice of word matters and impact people's perspective in some way. So life is like a journey to keep on learning. We all make mistakes, and we are here to correct and improve on it. That's why, to me, creating this company and also creating this platform for myself and many people is a place whereby you recognize your mistakes and get out of it. Get up with it. Every time you get up, you become stronger. That's my direction. I hope my vision is very simple. Within the next 20 to 30 years, I hope that my Aaron Public Speaking Studio can be created into universities, that everywhere around the world can have a university like that, whereby it trains and focuses on public speaking skills and communication skills. Moreover, that can be leadership skills too, because leadership involves communication in some way. And also creating a culture, or rather saying a norm, saying that anyone can be as great if they believe in it. That university doesn't have any entry requirements. It just needs to have your belief that your voice can make a difference. That is the minimum threshold. It's because of all these degrees and qualifications around the world that actually limits a lot of different potentials. So I want to create something that is more like something that's recognized. The passing criteria could be very hard, but at least the entry requirements can be very, very low.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you so much, Aaron, for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And if people wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me in LinkedIn. And also, if they need some one-to-one coaching, usually I coach CEOs and also general managers. Sometimes students. So I touch on 4 different fields. One is mainly about kids and youth, because I believe that children are our next generation to building the future pillars in the society. So I groom and nurture and also train them to tap into their own voice. Then the adults, whereby they want to improve their communication and getting up the ladder with better confidence and also expressive skills. Then we have CEOs who wants to command and also lead and inspire people, and that's something that I'm good at. And finally, the ones who join contests, feel free to contact me. I'm here and have lots of different mentees that achieve great results that can be your living examples as your seniors to guide you to. So connect with me through LinkedIn, or for me currently, I'm in China. You can connect with me with WeChat. But when I'm back in Hong Kong, connect with me with WhatsApp. Yeah.
Awesome. Again, thank you very much for your time, Aaron. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.